My mom changed the locks while I was still inside. I heard the click and her cold voice say, "You don't live here anymore, Leah." My heart stopped. That was the house I grew up in. And now, I was being locked out of my own home. If you've ever been betrayed by your own family, stay till the end, because this story will make you feel every emotion. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you believe revenge is best served legally. She stood there with a smile that didn't look like a mother's at all. Behind her, my stepbrother Mark was laughing, arms crossed, acting like this was some kind of family joke. "You're 23, Leah," Mom said. "It's time you stopped depending on us." Depending? I was the one paying half the bills since Dad passed away, the same Dad whose name was still on the deed. But Mom didn't care. Ever since she married Greg, her new husband, I became the outsider in my own house. When I tried to open the door again, she shouted, "The keys don't work anymore. We've changed everything. Move on." My hands were shaking, not because I was scared, but because I felt something break inside me. I had nowhere to go, and all my clothes, memories, and my father's things were still inside. Mark grinned and said, "Guess you'll finally learn what real life feels like." That line burned in my chest. They thought I was weak, just a jobless, quiet girl still holding onto her father's memory. What they didn't know was that I had quietly spent 2 years studying property law online after work, learning every word of the inheritance clause my dad left behind. As I stood there on the porch, humiliated and heartbroken, a different kind of fire rose in me. They had taken my room, my clothes, my peace, but not my rights. I whispered to myself, "You'll regret this, Mom." Every single word. 3 weeks later, I walked back up that same driveway, not as a daughter begging to come home, but as the legal co-owner of half that house. Mom opened the door with that same smug smile, the one she wore the day she threw me out. "Oh, look who decided to visit," she said, leaning against the frame. Greg stood beside her, arms folded, like he was guarding his territory. But this time, I wasn't trembling. I held a thick envelope in my hand, sealed and official. "I'm not here to visit," I said quietly. "I'm here for what's mine." Her laugh echoed down the hall. "Yours?" she repeated. "Leah, you don't own anything. You were living here out of pity. I paid for this roof, not you." Mark walked in from the kitchen, sipping a smoothie like this was entertainment. "You should just let it go, sis. You're not part of this family anymore." I took a deep breath. My palms were sweating, but I looked straight at Mom. "Dad left this house to both of us," I said, sliding the envelope onto the table. 50-50. "You've been living off my share all this time." Her smile froze. "What nonsense." Before she could finish, I pulled out a copy of the will. Her face drained of color. Greg snatched the paper, scanning the lines, then looked at her with wide eyes. "Linda," he muttered, "it's got your husband's signature. It's legal." For the first time, she stuttered. "Where did you even get this?" "I studied every document Dad left behind," I said, my voice steady now. "And when you changed the locks, I filed a legal claim. You might have locked me out, Mom, but you also locked yourself out of the truth." Mark scoffed. "You really think a court will side with you?" I smiled finally. They already did. Their eyes widened as I dropped the court order on the table. Bold letters across the top read, "Property division approved." Mom's hand trembled as she picked it up. "This can't be real." "Oh, it's real," I said, walking past her into the living room. "And from now on, half of this house, every wall, every inch, belongs to me, legally." Greg slammed his fist on the table. "You can't do this." I turned slowly. "You already did it for me, the day you kicked me out." The silence in that room was colder than the day they threw me out. But I wasn't there for revenge, and not yet. I was there to claim what was rightfully mine. What they didn't know, though, was that this was only the beginning. Because I wasn't planning to live there again. I was planning to own it completely. The next morning, Mom called me like nothing had happened. Her voice was fake sweet. "Leah, honey, we don't need to make this a big deal. Lawyers, courts, it's too much stress for everyone." I almost laughed. "Stress for everyone?" She didn't think about that when she threw me out with nothing but my backpack. It's already done, Mom, I said. I just came to let you know I'll be moving forward with the property valuation. That's when her tone changed. Property valuation? What are you talking about? I'm selling my half, I said simply. You can either buy me out or live with whoever buys it. Her silence on the phone was gold. I could practically hear Greg whispering in the background. She can't sell half a house, can she? Oh, but I could. And I had already spoken to a real estate attorney who confirmed it. A buyer could legally purchase my share and become their new co-owner. Later that week, I visited the house again with a realtor, a confident woman named Dana, who carried a clipboard and a calm smile. The moment Mom saw her, she nearly exploded. You brought strangers into my home? Our home, I corrected her, smiling politely. And yes, Dana's here to assess my portion. Greg stepped in, trying to intimidate me. You think someone will buy half a house with us living here? Dana smiled at him. You'd be surprised. Investors love these cases, especially when the other owners are difficult. Mark rolled his eyes. You're bluffing. No one's buying that. But I could see the cracks forming in their confidence. The laughter was gone now, replaced by worry. Mom pulled me aside, lowering her voice. Why are you doing this to us, Leah? I met her eyes. You did this to yourself when you locked that door. By the end of the day, the realtor handed me a list of potential buyers. One of them was an investor offering nearly 3 times what I expected. That night, I got another call, this time from Greg. Let's talk, he said in a strained voice. Maybe we can make a deal. I smiled to myself. For the first time, they were the ones begging. But I wasn't done yet. Because I hadn't told them who the buyer really was. Someone who would make their lives a living nightmare. 2 days later, Mom and Greg sat nervously in their living room, waiting for the buyer to arrive. They didn't know I was standing outside, watching through the glass door as their confidence melted into fear. When the black car pulled into the driveway, Mom straightened up and whispered, "Please let it be someone reasonable." The door opened, and a tall man in a suit stepped out. Mr. Reed, my father's former business partner. Mom's face turned pale. You? She gasped. Mr. Reed smiled politely. Leah told me you were interested in negotiating. He shook Greg's hand with a grip that looked more like a warning. I'm here to finalize the purchase of her half. Greg stammered. You can't just sell it to him. He's the one who— Yes, Mr. Reed interrupted. The one your husband betrayed years ago. But unlike him, I honor deals. Leah's half is now mine. Mom's jaw dropped. This is ridiculous, she shouted, turning to me. You're giving the house to an enemy of your father? How could you? I stepped inside, my voice calm. You should have thought about my father when you threw out everything he built. Now someone who respected him will own it. Mark jumped up. You just ruined everything. We can't live here with him. Mr. Reed smiled. Oh, you won't have to. I'm planning renovations. I've already filed for partition, which means this house will be legally divided or sold entirely. Mom froze. Sold? Exactly, I said softly. You'll have to move out when it's finalized. But don't worry, you'll get your fair share after the sale. Her voice cracked. Leah, please. This was our home. I looked at her, remembering the night she locked me out in the rain. You said I didn't live here anymore. I'm just making sure that's true for everyone. She burst into tears, but Greg just glared, muttering, You think this makes you powerful? You'll regret this. I smiled faintly. Maybe, but at least I'll sleep in peace. Something you can't buy back. As I turned to leave, the for sale board went up in front of the house. Neighbors began whispering. The same people who'd watched me get thrown out now saw them losing everything, but what none of them knew yet was that I wasn't done collecting what belonged to me. The following month, everything changed. The house that once felt like a prison of memories was now nothing more than a file number in the county records. Sold. And the check that landed in my hands was more than just money. It was justice. I stared at that piece of paper for a long moment. Half the value of the house, the same house they said I didn't deserve to step inside. The same home where my dad's photo once hung before Mom replaced it with Greg's. Now, that house no longer belonged to them. It was gone, just like the power they used to hold over me. The morning after the sale, I went back one last time, not to gloat, but to say goodbye. Moving trucks lined the driveway. Greg's voice was hoarse from yelling at the movers, and Mom sat on the porch, eyes swollen, her hair tied messily, so unlike the proud woman who'd laughed when she threw me out. She saw me and froze. For a second, her expression softened, like she wanted to say something, but pride still ruled her face. "You happy now?" she asked bitterly. I took a deep breath. "No, Mom, I'm free now. There's a difference." She looked down, twisting her wedding ring. "You ruined our lives, Leah." I shook my head slowly. "No, Mom, you ruined mine first. I just stopped letting you control it," Greg sneered. "Don't act like you're better than us." "You'll end up alone," I smiled slightly. "I already was." That's when I learned who I really am. Behind them, Mark came out with a box in his hands, his face full of regret. "Leah, I didn't mean for it to go this far." I met his eyes. "You laughed when they locked me out, Mark. That's all I remember." He looked away, speechless. As the truck pulled out, I walked around the empty lawn one last time. The wind carried faint echoes of my father's laughter. The man who built this home with love, not greed. And somehow I felt like he was proud of me. Weeks later, I used part of the money to start something new. A small legal consulting business helping people who'd been cheated out of property by their own families. It started slow, but soon people who had no one else to fight for them came to me. Every case reminded me of that night I stood outside my own home, locked out and powerless. Now, I was the one holding the keys, not to a house, but to justice. A few months later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a small note in my mom's handwriting. "You were right, Leah. I was wrong. Your father would have been proud. I'm sorry." I read it twice, tears filling my eyes. Maybe forgiveness wasn't instant. Maybe it never would be. But it was a start. I folded the note carefully and placed it inside my desk drawer. That night, as I sat in my quiet apartment overlooking the city, I realized something powerful. Revenge wasn't about destroying others. It was about rebuilding yourself in silence until they have no choice but to respect you. They called me poor. They called me useless. But in the end, I walked away richer. Not just in money, but in peace, dignity, and strength. And as I turned off the light, I smiled to myself, because the girl they locked out had just locked in her future.